Welcome to our third video in the C++ series of UG Academy. In the last video, I have talked about how to define some basic types of variables within the C++ programming language. In this video, I'm going to talk about the relational operators and logical operators among these variables and the if-else statement. First, the relational operators. Relational operators are usually used to perform some comparison operations on numerical variables. There are in total 6 relational operators within C++, namely equals to. Note that the equals operator here is not a simple single equal sign within your keyboard. There is 2 equal signs for this equal to operator, because the single equal sign is used for assigning values to variable. So the equals operator will take 2 equal signs, and then less than or equal to, greater than, and then greater than or equal to. At last, not equal to. These relational operators can take in 2 numerical variables and then return a Boolean variables. Other than relational operators, we also have logical operators, which usually perform on Boolean values, namely true or false. There are 3 types of logical operators on C++. Not, which will negate the value, true become false, false become true, or, and then and. For or and, you can have a look at the true-false table here. Their meaning is quite simple. It's quite similar to the plain English, so it's not hard to understand. Also, although logical operators usually are performed on Boolean variables, it can also be performed on numerical variables. In that case, true will be treated as one or other non-zero values, and then false will be treated as 0. Okay. So after talking about relational operators and logical operators, let's have a look at the if-else statement or if-else if statement in C++. When writing programs, we often have to decide what to do in different cases, maybe according to user input or other conditions. Here is where if-else statement become handy. First, we need to logical expression to see which state we are in. For example, in this simple case, comparing whether x or y is larger. So if the Boolean statement is true, it will execute the statement here. A bracket is needed if there are multiple statements. If there is only one statement to execute, we can also neglect the bracket. But usually we add bracket here, just for the sake of safety. And then else statement will be executed if this value is not true. There is also this if-else if statement. In some cases, we have more than one statement what we want to classify. So the if-else if statement work like this. First, if this is true. If this statement is true, run the statement here, and then evaluate this statement, and then run the statement here. If all of the else if statement is false, then at last we go to the else statement. The same go for brackets. Like here, they don't have bracket because only one statement here. If you have more than one statement to execute, and then use the bracket. So that's all about the theory about today. We're going to talk today. So let's have a look at the code. Okay. Let me rewrite all this. First, we need to include the I/O stream, which is the standard library for user input or output on the console. Then we have to write the main function, which is required for every C++ program, returning an integer. Then we ask the user a question. In this program, we are going to ask user to input 2 integers and then return whether the first integer is larger, second integer is larger, or whether they are equal. So first, let's ask the user a question. We use the double column here to indicate a string to be output to the console. Okay. Double quote here. input two integers, okay? And then we also use the std endl. The std here simply means that these statements are within the standard library. And then don't forget the semicolon here, because we have to indicate that this statement have already ended to the compiler. Then we are going to define two variables, namely integer x and then integer y, both of them in integer type. Here we are just telling the compiler to allocate memory for this variable, but we haven't assigned an actual value to it yet, because we are going to take in user input to assign its value. Std cin the input module from standard library, and then it will take in a value and user input value and then apply it to the x variable. Similarly, cin and then goes to y. So now x and y take in the two integer value we received from the user. Now we are going to perform our if-else statement to decide which number is larger. So if x is larger than y using our relational operator, if this expression is true, then we are going to execute this. The first number is bigger, okay? Telling user the result. Don't forget to semicolon. And then else if x equals y. Remember there are two equal signs here for the equal operator. Similarly, std cout the two numbers are the same. Okay, and then at last we no longer need the if, because this is our last statement, and in this case the second number will be larger. So also cout the second number is bigger. Okay, so that's the end of our very simple program. We take in two integers from the user and decide which one is larger, and then return the output as a string. Remember to save your file and then open your terminal. If you are using Visual Studio Code, this should be very simple. Go to View and click Terminal. We need to use our G++ compiler to compile our CPP file to machine code, namely ext executable. In my case, I name it if.cpp. So I will simply type this. But since I've already compiled it, so I'll just directly call the executable. In my case, the name is a.ext, which is the default name, but you can name it whatever name you want. To execute a program within the console, we use a // from the position where the program is stored. Okay, and then press enter. First input two integers. Let's try 3. And then press enter. This will be the first integer to input to our program. And then input 2, and then press enter again. So the first number is bigger. That's very obvious. Let's try the program again. Okay, in this case we are going to use 2, 5. The two numbers are the same, just as what we will expect. Please input two integers. Let's try 4, 2. The first number is bigger. Okay, our program works very well. Okay, that's all for today. And in the next video, we are going to talk about namespace and then comments. Okay, thanks for watching.